back to the Flicks Forum podcast, where each episode we check out a Netflix original film in the order of release. Today we have Netflix's 84th film. It's the 2018 comedy, The Week Of. It's directed by Robert Smigel. It stars Adam Sandler, Chris Rock, Rachel Dratch, Steve Buscemi, Allison Strong, and Noah Robbins. I'm Jesse, and here with my co-host MJ.
How are you, Jesse?
Good, how are you?
I'm very, very well. I'm good because, I'm good. I've had a good day. It's been nice.
Nice.
I'm disappointed that you're not wearing the shirt that you said you were going to wear.
Last week, yes, I said I would wear my baby driver shirt.
Yeah.
And
Thought about it all day today. Didn't want to mention it because I didn't want to sort of play down.
The pressure was on. I was like, I came straight from work and I was like, I don't have time to change. So, yeah, unfortunately, get me in a gross check shirt.
That's quite nice. I've got no issues with the shirt. I still really want to see your baby driver shirt, though.
Good. I will endeavour to remember to wear it next.
Because I won't remind you. This is on you.
Oh, pressure. I don't like pressure. Pressure stresses me out. Well,
you wouldn't have enjoyed being in the house with Adam Sandler then.
The claustrophobic, the tension from this film. Anyway, that's the film we're talking about, is The Week Of. We start our show with our Fast Flicks, where we do our own little summary of the film. MJ, before we're going to spoil this film, obviously. Yeah. So if you want to watch this film before listening to us, please do so. So MJ, spoil it for us.
Well, my Fast Flicks probably won't spoil it because it's more like an elevator pitch. I've got two families come together the week before their kids are to be married amidst chaos and crazy characters.
Nice. That's perfectly put. I've just said the week of a wedding through the eyes of two dads.
There you go. You use the title in the Fast.
I did. I was like, I'm going to try and be clever here.
That's good.
Yeah.
So hang on. The week of the wedding
through the eyes of two dads.
Okay.
Yeah. That's it. That's all I got. So we often try to work out anything we can discover about a film. This is an Adam Sandler one, so surely we've got a bit of information about this film and how it was made that we can discuss.
Well, you kind of hit the main point there. Is that this is the final film from the 4-movie deal that Adam Sandler had with Netflix, and that was way back to the start. So I think Ridiculous 6 was the second Netflix original film, if my memory serves me correctly.
Sounds about right.
So you had the Ridiculous 6, the Do-Over, Sandy Wexler, and then this one being The Week Of. So that was the 4-movie deal that they signed on initially.
Yep. We
know that since then he has signed on for another 4 movies, of which I think all we've seen at this point in time March 2020.
Yep.
I think all we've seen is Murder Mystery.
I'm not sure whether his stand-up counts as one.
Yeah, but if that was the case, that would have been before The Week Of, don't you think?
They announced I'm pretty sure when we did, was it the Do-Over? No, or Sandy Wexler, they announced then that they'd extended the deal from there.
Okay.
Yeah. But
so
yeah.
Maybe. I think, okay. Either way, we've got a few more to come.
We sure do. And this is his 5th Netflix, film. We did have the Meyerowitz Stories, which wasn't a Happy Madison production.
It's a Noah Baumbach
film. But so he's 5th.
I love the versatility of Adam Sandler sometimes.
Sometimes. I like that word, sometimes.
Look, he's one of my favourite actors.
I mean, we grew up with a lot of his content,
and you don't forget that. You don't forget the love that you have of a guy who brought you so much joy when you were younger.
Totally agree.
And he just seems like a good dude. What else you got, Jesse?
Well, so just a couple of casting sort of choices, I guess, where you've got Jared Sandler. Which is Adam Sandler's nephew, plays the next door neighbor called Jared.
Yeah,
so that was
very original.
I think didn't we have his wife or something in one of the other ones?
I'm pretty sure his wife was in this as well.
Oh well, yeah,
I just
probably
and his kids have been in the other ones.
The other ones, yeah. This one also had the Uncle Seymour character.
Oh yeah,
he had lost both his legs, and the guy who plays Seymour, Jim Barone, he actually lost both his legs to diabetes.
So I was actually watching this, trying to figure out how they did it. I just assumed that he hadn't. I just assumed he was a fully legged male, and
the makeup wasn't great because you could tell he wasn't as old as he
was. What does it say? He was. He's only 4 years and 6 years older than Chris Rock and Adam Sandler, respectively.
Yep.
And so I think the character is 87 years old, and he's actually only 57.
Reminded me some of the makeup from Bad Grandpa. Or
no, that's why they didn't make him have many lines. He just kind of because he might have sounded too young. I loved when I read that though. Uncle Seymour was a great character.
Yeah, and his colleagues or something just said, "Hey, go try out for you. You'd be good for this role."
It's we need a guy with no legs.
And he's like, "You're a funny guy, so you'll be fine in this." Thought that was interesting. What? Anything else you've got?
Not just that it was filmed in New York. So the film was set in Long Island. It
Yep.
was filmed in Long Island in Glen Cove.
In July 2017.
Yeah. So then released on Netflix 27th of April 2018.
Same day as Candy Jar episode from last week.
Yeah. And because we're so good, we go in alphabetical order.
We sure do. We sure do. This one, I got a Netflix percentage match.
I'm currently not living in my house, so I'm actually not watching on my own Netflix at the moment.
Lets us down.
The people that I'm living with at the moment, I'm just they're already logged into Netflix. I'm not going to log out every time.
You should keep.
I do watch a lot more TV, or not TV. I do watch a lot more movies than anybody else in the house at the moment. But it's only short term. Just moving there for a few weeks.
I got it.
So no, I don't have a match.
I got a 58% match.
Well, you definitely should have a match because you've watched arguably 3 very similar films.
So the interesting thing for this one for me was, that's
a low match, by the way.
It is a very low match. It's a very low match, and I don't know what Netflix are doing because prior to us talking, we were having a chat about Netflix have now introduced this trending almost their top 10 watched content. So if you log in on your desktop computer or a browser, you get these little boxes on the top that sort of say, this is a top 10 film or trending sort of thing, which I thought was interesting. But
don't tell me this was in there.
No, this wasn't. No, this was not in there. But the interesting thing with this, so when I started the film, I had a 58% match.
Yep.
Then I watched like the first hour and I had to pause it to put the dinner on.
Sure.
So my TV had turned off, turned it back on, my percentage match had increased. So it went up to 81%.
That's scary.
That's using data saying, well, you've watched the first half, you're going to watch the second half, we're going to bump your percentage match up.
I don't like that.
It was weird.
That's messing with the algorithm. I think you should be tweeting this, Jesse.
I took screenshots of the TV both times, so yeah.
That's lucky that you took one at the start.
Yeah, well, because I took a photo because I didn't have my computer, and I was like, I need that for my notes.
So you want to remember it?
Yeah, so I got 2 photos, one 58%, one 81%.
Jesse, this is fascinating. That to me, that puts a lot of the credibility. Not that it's an algorithm, right? Like
it's their own internal
and
system.
they want you to watch things.
Yeah,
so they're not going to. Everything's 40%. I'm not going to watch anything. That's terrible. Well, I guess the argument is if you watch that film and you don't thumbs up or thumbs down. They're saying that he watched this film,
an hour of it, so
he's gonna want to watch more films like this. True. What's a film like this? This is actually
So I thought that was interesting.
It's a big jump. That's a very really big. Considering you would have had a big enough sample size of other films that would have suggested if you're gonna like it or not.
I probably would have stuck with the 58%. Yeah. So interesting. What about the consensus for this one?
Not bad considering. I mean, Adam Sandler's a pretty easy target when he does these kinds of films. So anyone who wants to have any kind of credibility, if they think they've got any sort of credibility in their opinion on films, they're not going to say they liked it. So
sure, that's a fair point.
It's got a 5.1 out of 10 on IMDb from 16,000 ratings.
Yep.
5.1 is not too bad. I'm sure you'd take that if you were Netflix, to be perfectly frank. 16,000 ratings is also a pretty good number.
Pretty high,
yeah. Much lower on Letterboxd with a 2.3 out of 5. 5,700 ratings to that one. So not too popular on Letterboxd, but again, like if you think a movie's 2.5, you didn't hate it.
2.3 is not too bad, really. Google users 73% like this one, so on the lower side.
Yeah,
but our other ones, Rotten Tomatoes, 27% on 26 reviews, so it's certified rotten. That one.
That just backs up my point. People aren't going to go on Rotten Tomatoes and be the guy that loves the Adam Sandler film.
And the audience on Rotten Tomatoes was 34% on a bit over 500.
500.
So it's small sample size compared to IMDb.
Yeah, that's it. But that's the thing. Like, I don't think anyone's ever going to go, I want to see a new Adam Sandler film. Rotten Tomatoes didn't like it. Maybe I won't watch it. Like,
exactly.
Adam Sandler is what it is. This is, for what it's worth, it's slightly different to some of our other films. It's got a little bit of a difference to it, but you either like him or you don't. And
compared to the Ridiculous Six, the Do-Over, and Sandy Wexler, this one's a lot more realistic.
It is, yeah. It's based in a far different reality as opposed to those three. Yeah. Well, Sandy Wexler is arguably based on a true story.
Sandy Wexler's, yes,
but it's almost a parody.
Yeah, exactly. So early thoughts time.
Yeah, I'm kind of jumping into that, aren't I?
Yes. Look, what are your early thoughts?
I mean, I thought it was all right. Like, as I said, I still really like Adam Sandler. And I kind of like I still get genuine laughs from him. I still got genuine laughs from this film and this kind of comedy. There was a lot of like meh filtered around those laughs. I think he's still great. I thought Rachel Dratch was pretty good in this. He played his wife. Steve Buscemi was kind of underused but worked fine. Yeah. Chris Rock didn't work for me at all in this film.
He wasn't in it enough.
No,
they left him out for like the first half pretty much.
But I just didn't buy him in that role, and the chemistry didn't really work for him and the other characters. It felt really. We've got Adam Sandler and Chris Rock. Let's just make them these two dads, and I didn't really feel it from him.
Sure.
But a lot of the humor, this probably says more about me than the film, came from Uncle Seymour for me.
Yeah.
And they're cheap laughs, but they're laughs nonetheless.
Yes.
Like they're the sort of things that you write down on paper, and you know that people are going to laugh at them. And people laugh at them like, I shouldn't be laughing at this, but it's funny. It's funny.
Good.
You?
Yeah. So to me, this runtime was just way too long.
That was my next point.
And there were way too many characters on screen. And I get they were doing that to try and create this chaos, but it was just way too much for me, and it's not necessary viewing this one in the Adam Sandler collection.
So this was just under 2 hours, like a whisker under 2 hours. Close. Ridiculous 6 was an hour and 59 minutes.
Yep.
The Do-Over was an hour and 48 minutes.
Yep.
Sandy Wexler was 2 hours and 10 minutes. he doesn't need to be doing this.
He's like, I'm with Netflix. I got this freedom to make it as long as I want.
Ridiculous 6. I remember felt like it was about 4 hours. It just so that's my one criticism. And you and me go through. We've obviously got a list of films that we cover, and we cover them chronologically. So we know the order of films we're going to be doing.
Yeah.
So, out of interest, I go through our spreadsheet and I put the running times in there.
Yeah.
It is so rare that we're getting a 2 hour film, and for something like this to be the 2 hour film that we get, it doesn't make sense. No. So,
good, agree.
Sort that out. Happy Madison.
So, like I mentioned, there's a lot of characters in this one.
I'm specifically not going to go through all of them.
Yeah,
because a lot of them don't deserve our breath.
Yeah, I was going to say probably only need to focus on 4 maybe.
4. I have 4 characters written down.
Good. All right.
One of which has very little to talk about.
Good. Let's reel them off.
Well, Adam Sandler played the main character.
Kenny.
Didn't realise his name was Lustig. His surname was Lustig.
Well, I knew that the amputee guy, his surname was Lustig.
True, and that was his uncle or something.
Uncle, yeah. So that was the only reason, yeah.
So Steve Buscemi was his brother? No, his cousin.
Yeah.
Steve Buscemi was his cousin.
Yeah.
Anyway, you kind of feel like this is Adam Sandler to an extent. Whether it is or isn't, that's how the film made me feel. Like, real family man. Everyone knows Adam Sandler's a real family man.
Yeah.
He keeps everyone in his life close to him, which he does because he gets all his mates his jobs in his movies.
No Rob Schneider in this one.
No. He works really hard to make sure everyone is fine. And then there's that Happy Gilmore streak that's just inside him. That's like
just lets loose every now and
then. But not once did you ever feel like his heart wasn't in the right place, and that he genuinely did care for everybody in this film.
Yeah.
And he was just so likable in that sense.
Yeah, he was this caring, sharing character for me. Wanted the best for his family, for his daughter, for the day. Didn't matter how many times he made that trip to the airport. Like, he was just doing what he thought was the right thing to do.
Didn't even have to do it most of the time.
Nah, but he was quite stubborn. He was probably one of the most stubborn Sandler characters.
Stubborn in his sense of pride.
Yes, definitely.
Not stubborn, like he obviously was very easygoing with letting people live in his house.
Yes.
But that was important to him.
Yeah.
It was a matter of principle.
Exactly, yes. All right, who have you got next?
Well, I've got Kirby. Did you even know his name was Kirby?
It was very late when they revealed that. Yeah. Massively late. I put it in capitals in my notes, and it was, towards the back end of the film.
Because he either got referred to as, like, Doctor.
Yep.
Or, like, Dad, or your dad. Or this. And that's a good point. Do we believe Chris Rock is a doctor? Because even that first scene when he was doing surgery,
it was like they were going for a cheap laugh that didn't land.
Chris Rock never worked for me in this film. He felt like an imposter who just wandered onto the set and they're like, oh yeah, we'll use him. That's honestly how I felt the whole time. So nothing about the character in that sense really worked for me. Like, sometimes he seemed like this really absent parent. Sometimes he didn't. Sometimes he seemed to know lots about his family, even though they implied that he didn't. There never seemed to be this proper bad blood in the family, except maybe like a few pot shots he got from his daughter.
Yeah.
But then the way they described his parenting, it was just atrocious. Like, he wasn't even around.
He was absent, yeah.
But then sometimes, whenever it worked for them, they used it. Whenever it didn't, they didn't, which got me really confused. So I couldn't necessarily put my finger on why it didn't add up. I just got nothing out of him.
I didn't get the feeling that he was a good parent until right at the end. I felt like, the whole way through he was just... gave nothing to anyone really.
But then it was also really important for him to be there, and he was like, I mean, obviously he had a bit of money, but he was really willing to pay for everything.
Yeah, true.
So he wasn't this terrible dad.
No.
He just obviously was never really in love with the mum and just
wasn't around.
Yeah, so I don't know. But I don't know, man. Like, did Chris Rock work for you?
The one scene that really, when he finally rocks up in the film, and you can tell the son, is it Tyler? I think his son was a bit annoyed that he'd arrived the night before and didn't sort of tell him. And then the next sort of scene we see him, he's pretty much telling him, you need a prenup. And I was just like, let's see some time together rather than just straight into that, because...
You're not suggesting that we needed more scenes though in this film, are you?
No, maybe cut that scene.
True.
Cut that scene, because it didn't add to anything.
Scene really didn't
add to anything at all.
Didn't go anywhere. It wasn't like an agenda that he had.
Because it didn't seem like he was really tight with his money, because he was happy to pay for women and hotels and stuff, and then it's like, we've got to be tight with that money. It was just weird.
Yeah, no, good point.
Alright, who have you got next?
I got Debbie.
Yes, me too.
Debbie is the mother of the family, Adam Sandler's wife, played by Rachel Dratch. I actually... Despite this being Kenny's story, I kind of like the fact that the weight of the wedding didn't just fall on him. And Debbie was kind of doing everything that she could to keep the family happy, and she was just as stressed. And they didn't shy away from showing that. Yes, it was Kenny making a sense of his pride the most important thing, but she was in the exact same boat.
And I thought it was impressive that whenever something happened or went wrong, the first thing he did was call her. He'd get onto the phone straight away and be like, hey, look, this is what's happening now. And she, it was just nice that he always bounced off.
Yeah, they were a good couple. And you know what? I love their screaming matches. Like, to get their release. Yeah. Just the fact that they just assumed that no one could hear them. Yeah. But the thing is, they never got mad. Like, they were never mad at each other outside of that. They was like, okay, it's like almost healthy thing.
It was always off screen,
Cracking at each other, and then he would just walk down the stairs like with a smile on his face, as if nothing had happened, even though the whole house had heard everything. I thought they had really good chemistry, those two. They were two good characters.
Agreed. She was very, very highly strung too for me. Like, just and I guess that was nice, sort of in comparison to where Kenny was at, because you needed someone to be like stressed a little bit, where he was just like, it's alright, it's gonna work, and she's like, rah.
Well, that's the thing. He was what was that, the duck analogy, where he's like, underwater he's going crazy, but he kept that facade up nicely.
Who have you got next?
Well, I've got Charles here.
Sure.
Is Steve Buscemi's character, and there's not a heap to say about him. I feel like they were making this film, and then Steve Buscemi's like, hey, I'm around, I can be in there, and so they just made this role purely for him, and it's a classic Steve Buscemi role in these kinds of films, because it allowed him to shine as like this scumbag from time to time and still be really funny. And, man, the idea of him telling his dad that he whacked off in the vacuum cleaner and just like, I'm so glad I got that off my chest, and like, only Steve Buscemi could do this role, and I feel like if he wasn't going to be in the movie, that character didn't exist.
Yeah, you didn't really need that character.
Not at all, but it was still funny, and it's still comfortable, right? It's like a comfy pair of jeans when you see those sort of guys in those films. So
I thought it was interesting that this whole film is about this wedding, but you really don't know a lot about Sarah and Tyler.
So I was trying to think what to say about them.
Yeah.
And I didn't have much. They both seemed like just pretty stand-up guys, and pretty happy to go. They love their families.
Even though that was the main crux of why Kenny was so caring and sharing, was because of his daughter. You didn't really get to know a lot about her. So I thought that was and I thought the Noah guy, the cousin who was out of rehab for the wedding or whatever, I thought that could have been a funny character, but
it was supposed to be. Don't act like it was meant to be a serious.
It just nothing landed with that.
No, it didn't. It was one of those things that you like. It's like a ticking time bomb, right? We're going to put this in the room, and we're going to make you uneasy the whole time, and something's going to happen eventually.
Good. All right, director time. So Robert Smigel. Interesting.
Yeah. So this is technically his directorial debut.
It is. Yeah.
But he's been around. So he was a writer for Saturday Night Live.
Lots of writing, and he's directed a few episodes too.
Yep, and he's done a lot of producing, particularly he's done producing on Late Night with Conan O'Brien.
Yep.
He's co-written and executive produced You Don't Mess with the Zohan. Also at Hotel Transylvania, which is Adam Sandler as well. Yeah. I think he has got a bit of a background in animation as well.
Yep.
So he's been around, and I think I heard him say something like, yes, I've never officially been a director, but I'm around and I kind of know what I'm doing. I've just never had the credit.
Yeah. Cast, so you didn't really like
It's a good question.
Yeah.
I didn't really like Chris Rock, but who else could play that role? I think and this almost feels a bit like it's been done, but almost like an Ice-T in that kind of role would have worked a little bit better.
Yeah.
The character changes a lot with
Chris
that.
Tucker.
No, Chris Tucker's too much like Chris Rock. I don't reckon that would have worked. But look, obviously, it didn't necessarily have to be black either. Like it could have been anyone who almost has more of like a dramatic background, but still kind of funny. So there's
Denzel Washington,
maybe. I'm trying to
I don't know.
pick a white guy. Didn't have to.
No, you've got to have the cultural.
Yeah, I'm just saying when you're writing it down on paper, it doesn't have to.
Yeah.
Denzel Washington actually would have been hilarious.
Yeah, because he can be quite funny.
Yeah, and that would have made Kenny look so funny. Yeah, Chris Rock just didn't have it. I don't know. He didn't have it.
Yeah, I didn't like. To me, it's we need to stop Sandler from doing films that are nearly 2 hours.
Yeah,
we need a tight 90-minute Sandler film.
It's a hell of a point.
Yeah,
because there's a lot of stuff here that didn't matter.
Yeah, scene time.
Yeah.
So we start off. I want you to start off with some scenes that stood out for you. What are some things that you liked about this one?
All right. Well, there's a bit of
I reckon we're gonna have a lot of similar. There's not a lot to talk about this one, so I reckon we're gonna have a lot of similar stuff.
So there's a little bit of an Uncle Seymour theme in mine.
Me too. That's why I prefaced it with I think we're going to be co-saying.
I wasn't sure if you were going to like Seymour, to be frank.
No, Seymour was the highlight.
Good, because I was worried that you were going to like look down on me and go, "Come on, MJ, you're better than that." So I'm happy with
considering that they got a guy who's actually got that condition.
Well, I didn't know that at the time though, and I still thought it was funny.
Yeah. Good.
When he's in the car and he asks to use the toilet, just that whole sequence. And he says, can you hold on for 3 minutes? And he's like, I'll give you 2. And then carrying him into the toilet. Just the idea of them waiting outside. The guy goes in with them into the toilet with them.
Obviously someone who's trying to, Kenny's trying to sell work to. We don't hear from him again. We didn't need that.
We don't see Kenny swindling work ever again either. But then the other guy rolls into the toilet, looks under, sees no legs under the toilet and goes to... And he's like, someone's in there. No, they're not. And then the flush and, oh, man. That was really funny.
All right, good. That's not one of my funny Seymour scenes.
So the next Seymour scene is when he's sleeping, the first time the thing bumps into his head. I like the fact that they put the dog there, sniffing around the ground, because you think the dog's going to do something. Yeah. And then it turns out Sandler just, kicks a cord.
The cord and it just, falls on his head.
It thumps on his head.
I've got that down. That was funny.
That was very funny. I didn't want to like this, but I just found myself laughing. But when Chris Rock used Seymour's legs as boobs.
Okay, good. The start of that, I like, where was this going? But the follow-on was good.
Yeah. When you see these stumps just sitting there, that was great. Again, that's one of those things where you're like, what ridiculous things can we do with a man with no legs?
Yep.
And even just the way they carried him everywhere. just held onto him like a big baby.
I like the continuation of that, the stump scene where, another thing falls on his head.
Yeah, that's right.
And then, he runs into the kitchen screaming, and then Debbie puts his hot pan in his hand, and then the dog just gets him. The dog getting him, I was laughing at that.
It was a good sequence. And then I take a bit of a turn for the things that I like. So, the chat at the wedding between Adam Sandler and his daughter when their place is on fire.
Yep.
It was really nice. It's probably the whole notion of the film, and it's a little bit too easy to say I liked it, but I love that kind of stuff, and it worked for me. And then on with that, the wedding dance was really nice. Just tied everything together. It was really sweet. Everyone kind of got up and danced and made amends with everyone. I was just sitting there smiling the whole time, so good. That worked for me as well. But
some nice touching stuff to finish it off.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, well, I got another Seymour one.
Oh, good.
I liked.
I would have liked it.
And this was earlier. This was when he gets in at the airport and literally the wheelchair comes down the conveyor belt at the airport. And just that going down, I laughed at that. I was like, who just puts a full wheelchair on the conveyor belt and just watch it crash? I thought that was good. I liked this one made me laugh as well when Kirby rocks up to this hotel that they've tried to put a chandelier in the roof and everything, and you've got this hotel staff dude who's like, we've got a colour TV, we've got a fridge, we've got a toaster, an exercise bar.
The toasters.
and then Kirby finishes off and goes, oh, that exercise bar so I can hang myself. I thought that was very funny.
What did you think of the bloke who worked at the hotel?
I thought he was really good.
Thought it just went on a little bit too long for me.
Yeah. And then, that's a lot of the jokes in this.
True, but early on I'm like, this guy's really funny. Like, Because initially I'm like, is he even going to do anything? Is he just nodding his head? And then he actually went and bloody did it. And then eventually by the end of it, I was like, all right, man, I'm a bit over you.
Yep. As soon as they take Seymour in to get his tuxedo, and these guys are like, oh, he's a war vet, and then the follow on from that baseball scene, that like had me in stitches. I thought that was hilarious. Like there's people crying and people clapping. It's like, oh, it's a grandchild of a vet. I just thought that scene was really good.
Yeah, okay.
I
forgot about the baseball scene.
The baseball scene was great. And then I've got two nice ones to finish it off too, but they're different to the nice ones that you had. I liked when Kenny and Kirby are sort of on the dance floor and people are lifting them and they're having that conversation between each other. And
yeah.
But again, that's another joke that got repeated too much. Like they kept dropping them down. No, we're not done. Way too many times. And the post-credit scene where they're on the porch together, I just thought that was nice as well. Same two characters, Kirby and Kenny.
I feel like Kirby changed a little bit too much by that point. Like they're like, oh, by the way, we got this great Kirby. You know, we didn't really see him change, but this is the one we end up with.
At the wedding, he went around and talked to people at tables, so that was the change. They tried. They gave it a crack.
Yeah.
What didn't you like?
Well, you said you liked it. The war veteran thing, you liked that sequence.
Yeah.
The whole thing dragged on, and it was so predictable. It was so predictable that they were going to get found out.
Yeah.
And the lie just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And by the end of it, it was really dull. I was like, okay, I'm really over this side of the story. We get you're gonna have a bit of a relief.
As soon as the ambos come, the paramedics, you know that
100%. And then obviously the word gets around and the whole thing gets ruined. But there's a really shit sequence where at the bachelor party when the music went off and they all just kept dancing. Like, I know there was the whole like, oh, turn the music off for Noah, and that stuff was a little bit funny when they were saying the ridiculous things that Noah needed, but that was a bit shit. This was not necessarily something I didn't like. I didn't initially like the whole bat thing when they're like, all right, let's put bats in there. But I kind of enjoy that they just fully committed to it. Like, I thought it was going to be this stupid idea that they stopped, and then they were actually catching bats.
That came from nowhere, and I was just
nowhere.
I was like, what the hell? Like, that was, like, to me, I was like, that's just ridiculous.
They've just lost the plot.
And then they got the bag and they're throwing it against the... I
just like the fact that they committed to it and they knew it was stupid. They just kept doing it. Because at the start, I was like, this sucks. But I was like, keep giving me the bats, all right? I don't mind the bats now.
Had that in there as well.
That's all I've got.
Okay. You mentioned before that you didn't mind this, but I didn't like the off-screen arguing between...
didn't you? Okay.
Between Kenny and Debbie. It's one of those tropes that Sandler does, that yelling. And I don't like the yelling Sandler in big doses.
Okay.
So that annoyed me a little bit.
Do you like Happy Gilmore?
I do like Happy Gilmore.
There's a lot of yelling.
Yeah. And the same with Billy Madison. Like
Suck my white ass ball!
The scene where they take Seymour to the toilet in that diner, I didn't like the end. The grunting and the groaning in the toilet, I was like, it wasn't funny.
Cheap, easy laugh.
Yeah.
I completely understand that.
The bridesmaids, I had lots of issues with them. Every scene they were in, it was just a waste of time. Like
100%.
This whole decision about the song they're going to walk out to, who cared? Like at the end of the day, it wasn't needed. Like you just bring them out of the wedding, dance to a song. Didn't need all those extra scenes with them.
Yeah. Well, here we are talking about the fact that the film's too long.
Too long. Yeah.
You can cut out the entire bridesmaid sequences. They even dance for way too long with that big bowl of water that was on. Like,
it wasn't funny.
Nah, it didn't work.
There's a scene where Adam Sandler's character Kenny's going to the airport to pick up one of the groups of people, and he's on the phone, and the wife sort of hangs up on him and continues that he's still talking to her, and then it rings. I was like, it's just not that kind of joke's
It's
not
too easy,
anymore,
isn't it? Yeah.
And the same, another obvious one is when he goes out the front. There's those two black guys just going for a walk, and he's like, "I'm coming for breakfast." That was so obvious that
it was way too
that it kept going. Like,
I'm not sure whether. So I watched that scene as if the audience knows that these guys are. I'm sure it was.
Yeah.
And in that sense, it was just Kenny being an idiot. But it would have been so much better if it was like if they genuinely made you believe. It's a hard thing to do. It would have really hard thing to do.
But Kenny wasn't a stupid Sandler character in this one, so it didn't go with the rest of his character. Like in any other Sandler film, that would have made sense, but in this one, it didn't.
Yeah. I do like that when he realized that they were just we're just walking past. He's like, well, we'll stick around. Yeah. Like, I'm sorry, but yeah, have a feed.
Another repetitive thing that annoyed me was when Kenny picks Kirby up from that airport and they just have the whole air conditioner thing. Like window down, window up, have a sleep. It just went on too long. It's one of those jokes that they just dragged.
Do you want to turn the air? All right, I'll turn it on.
Yeah.
All right, turns off straight away. Sorry. I didn't think it was great.
And then I didn't like the scene where Charles has his last moment with Seymour and they talk about the vacuum cleaner. I was just like, didn't get it.
I only worked with Steve Buscemi.
Yeah. Cool. All right, that's me done. What are some things this film was trying to say? What are some themes, some ideas?
Oh, well, the big one, I don't think this film, worked way too hard to make you think about it, but family was the main thing, and the idea of being together is more important than anything, and that was relevant their entire, well, not life, but the entirety of this film.
The week.
Everyone was there, right?
Yep.
Every single, their next door neighbor. It's like, why'd you invite them? It's like, well, they're our next door neighbors. Like, well, what a nice notion. And in comparison, Chris Rock is the exact opposite of that.
Yeah.
He's a bit of a Grinch, so.
True. But yeah, tying in with that family too, like, parents wanting to do their best for their kids too. And then that tough time where sometimes you've got to let go too, and you've got to, you want that family connection, but you've got to have that little bit of space as well.
It was nice, wasn't it? It was really emotional, that scene at the wedding when they were talking about it.
A little bit of an idea too, like you got the wealthy versus the not so wealthy.
True.
But the not so wealthy family, like Kenny's family, like they're still generous. They're so generous, even though they're not as wealthy.
Yeah,
that was a nice little conflicting.
Yeah, it's got nothing to do with actual wealth,
And the last thing I had was that claustrophobic feeling throughout too. Like sometimes family is a lot, like it's full on.
Sure, great pickup.
Yeah. All right, what do we take from this one?
Well, to that point, actually, one thing that I did take out of it is that Sandler has this ability to create chaos, almost as good as anybody. Like, he just exists. He exists in this world of chaos, and he just navigates his way through it so well that this character of Kenny was like our tour guide through this world of chaos, and it's probably not as easy as we think to play that role. So, I really like that. But on the flip side, the Chris Rock Adam Sandler chemistry is the thing that sticks with me, and I know they were together in Grown Ups. I don't know if I've seen Grown Ups 2.
I haven't. No.
But obviously there's more of an ensemble cast there, so there's less jarring. But that chemistry didn't work, and if they're in another film together, I'm not going to rush to see it.
Yeah. So to me, it's the same. I'm not trying to be repetitive, but the repetitive jokes were. So you had like just some other ones that I didn't even mention before. You've got the repetitive joke about the leaks in the roof.
Yeah.
Like that just kept going on. Seymour needing to go to the toilet, or people freaking out that when Kenny goes, who's going to change him? Like they did that joke over and over again. And the same thing about like Kenny's family trying to get Kirby to pay for the wedding. Like they did that same line over and over again.
What about old mate from next door always being like
exactly. It was just the length, the repetition of jokes, and so many bloody characters. That was just the thing that stood out for me from this one.
Well, that created the feeling of tension that I'm pretty sure they were trying to create.
Yeah,
because there was a feeling in this first half of this film, particularly, maybe even longer, that I just felt uncomfortable. But like not uncomfortable like I'm watching bloody Human Centipede, but like uncomfortable that I know they're trying to make me feel uncomfortable and it's working. So
good. Did IMDb time? Is there any stage where you went to check on anyone in this film?
Well, I did jump on for Rachel Dratch, who plays Debbie, and so she's just one of those Saturday Night Live crew that she's in all those movies that kind of go along with that crew. And I was just trying to think if there was any particular role that I recognised her from, but there's not. I think she's just around,
Yeah.
Thought she was really good in this.
I had two.
Oh yeah.
I checked out Seymour, the guy who played Jim Brown, and then worked out, okay, he's been in nothing. I don't know. I just thought it was maybe one of Sandler's friends in heavy makeup at the start, so that's why.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. And the other one I checked out was the guy at the hotel, Hanan.
Oh yeah.
So his name's Nasser Faris. He's been in like 24, Homeland, a lot of TV shows.
Yeah, he's in Scary Movie.
Nasser Faris. Come on. So that was me.
Is he in a lot of TV shows? Is he?
Yes, he sure is. Question time. Got anything you want to ask?
Yeah, I do. The first one's like a situation in one of the film, and you're not going to have an answer for it because it's just part of the plot. But why would Adam Sandler offer to drive that client of his when the guy said he was going to drive himself? Right? He's like, "Oh yeah, no, I'll drive myself. I'll see you there." And he's like, "No, I'll drive you." When he knows there's a bloody guy with no legs in his car, why would he do that? I know you don't have an answer for it.
That's just him being a nice guy. He wants to drive everyone around. That's just him.
True. That's
a fair call.
Why did Isaac go to the bachelor party?
Yeah, it was the young kid. It was just
Make sure you take Isaac with you. Why?
Just so you could have some funny shots of him on trampolines with strippers. I don't know.
Yeah, because it's not like he did something that like I was expecting something to happen that was going to be based on him, but no, he was just kind of there.
Yeah.
So all my questions for you, actually, you can't answer. But
that's okay. I don't mind that.
The funeral, was immediately. It was like 5 hours after he died. Because when he died, I was like, oh, well, the wedding's in 2 days, so that'll happen. Then they'll sort of... And then the next scene was funeral. And it's like, oh, the wedding's tomorrow. I'm like, what? Hang on.
Needed another excuse to kick him out of that town hall. Yeah, fair point.
So, yeah, you can't answer any of those questions.
No, I can't.
But, you just kind of let it slide in these films. But I had to bring it up. If we're doing a podcast about the week of, if someone's listening to a podcast of a movie they watched, they want those questions brought up. That's what I'm thinking.
I've only got one for you. And I saw online, so Seymour, they refer to him as Mr. Lustig, yeah?
Yep.
Now, online somewhere it said it's a German word for... I can't even remember what it was, but someone had written it's a German word. So to me, as soon as I heard it, Lustig, lost leg. Like, to me, that's... I don't know, I was just like, is that a joke on his leg?
I wouldn't put it past him,
yeah.
Lustig.
That was the only thing I could think of.
It was funny when he really thought that he had one leg. He's like, hey, what happened to your other leg?
He rocks up the airport and the guy's like, there's people that need this wheelchair.
Yeah, boy, come on, mate. I thought he was just going to, like, drop him off or something.
Oh, man. All right. Oh,
he's like, he doesn't have a full-time carer? He's like, no. He's got no legs.
Oh, man. Well, I think we're ready to wrap this one up.
I do. I haven't had this for a while, but I have a dog update.
Dog update.
As you could probably imagine.
Yes, there were dogs in this one.
And there was like
Multiple
dogs fighting each other in this one. So it wasn't a great setup for me. Like a lot of the times if there's dogs in a film, they're not on screen for a very long time. It's just like a little thing and then it goes.
Yeah.
But this was long lasting.
The little dog was everywhere on the top of the fridge.
And then the dog just like hung out for the rest of the time on top of the fridge. And then the big dog. So my dog Todd was being a real prick about it.
Good. We haven't had a dog, like you said, in a while, so that was good.
And you know what? On my notes, I have a section for my dog every time. I just have to write NA most of the time.
Good. All right. Time to wrap it up. We, on the Flicks Forum podcast, give our films a rating out of 5 to come up with an overall average. Pressure's on. What are you going to give this? Where does this rank in your Sandler?
It's a good question.
Sandler films.
Well, it wasn't terrible. And if you are an Adam Sandler fan, you've got him as this competent guide that's going to navigate you through the whole narrative, and you still get your laughs along the way. Like, let's not forget there are laughs in this film.
Yeah.
It was a little bit of a slog at times, and with an underwhelming performance from Chris Rock and that ambitious runtime. But there's a lot worse out there. So it's still 2.5 stars for me.
Very nice.
I think it's better than Ridiculous 6. But that's probably it. The other two are better than that.
I think Sandy Wexler was my favorite.
I like Sandy Wexler as well. Yeah, Sandy Wexler, do-over, week of, Ridiculous 6 at the moment.
Good. So I've said this a lot. It's a bit too long for me. The laughs along the way were pretty good at times, but the repetitive jokes sort of dampened my mood on the better jokes.
Well, it just adds to the runtime, doesn't it?
I didn't mind the nice ideas in there that were there somewhere through this family connection like you spoke about.
Absolutely, yeah. You can't argue
so that was quite nice. So I'm giving it a 2 out of 5.
Yeah.
Which gives us a Flicks Forum of 2.25.
2.25, yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably fair.
Yeah, not bad. All right, social media. We are on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We are on all good podcasting platforms.
Even probably some bad ones.
I
haven't looked, but I'm sure we're on some bad ones.
You can Google search us and we are wherever you can find podcasts.
It's nice to see that when you Google Flicks Forum. Yeah, we are.
It's very good. So, question this week, and I know your answer for this one already.
Great.
What did you think of the Adam Sandler and Chris Rock combo?
There you go.
And you've answered that throughout already.
Have you answered that, like...
I didn't. Yeah, I don't know. It's a tricky one. The more you spoke about it, the more I was like, okay.
Well, don't let me sway you.
No. I'm like, I agree with what you're saying, but at the same time, like, I feel like you needed Chris Rock in there earlier.
Maybe. I
think he came in too late, and it didn't give you enough time to see him, like you said, change or make that progression.
A lot of my thing is I can't actually put my finger on what didn't work for me. It just didn't work.
Maybe you set him up as a doctor straight up. You're like, I don't believe this straight away.
And I did, because that was the very first scene, right? He's doing surgery, and I'm like, well, this already feels like some sort of parody. Joke, but hang on, he's a normal guy that you're supposed to believe is a normal guy. Because then you meet Kenny, and you're like, I know this guy's real. I've seen this guy 100 times. Adam Sandler's perfect for it.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're back again next week.
Oh yeah.
Next week we have an Indian Tamil language drama film, which is a bit of a changer. It's from 2016. It's called Sometimes. It's directed by Priyadarshan and it stars Prakash Raj, Shira Reddy, and Ashok Selvan.
Nice.
So get on board and give that one a watch. And
so what language did you say it was?
It's in Tamil.
Tamil. That's obviously different to the other Indian films that we've done.
Yes, I think the other ones were in. Is it just Hindu?
Yeah. Sorry, I shouldn't have asked you that.
Nah, I'm pretty sure with the other ones. So I think this is the first Tamil language film on Netflix.
Okay, cool.
So that's where we're going next week.
Sometimes.
So if you'd like to watch that before we get together next week, then please go ahead.
You talking to me? Because I will.
I know you will.
Because I could not, and then we could still try and chat.
We should do that one week. One of us not watch the film and try and sell
it. Don't
it.
tell the other one, yeah.
I'll rock up next week and be like, didn't watch it, MJ. So
no, don't tell me. There's got to be a point in the podcast that I realise that you haven't watched it. And I'm like, Jesse, that scene didn't happen.
So you got to tell me what the film's about. All right. Well, there.
Yeah, but if you're listening, you can watch it and then follow on with us. I think it's going to be interesting. I've heard good things about it.
Good. All right. Well, I'll see you next week.
I'll see you then.